Well, I think that it's very important that when we talk about this, we want to take a closer look at what Governor Beshear's executive order actually does. What it did was prevent the use of state funds for conversion therapy on minors. This is not a question of a minister or a counselor talking to a parishioner or a client about the different options that somebody who's experiencing questioning their identity or experiencing gender dysphoria can pursue. This is a ban on saying to somebody who knows who they are, you are not that, and we are going to torture you out of being
Why
that
use the
way.
word torture?
Because every single person that I have ever spoken to who has experienced conversion therapy comes back to that word. Some of them bear scars, physical scars, not just the emotional scars that this type of practice inflicts upon them. The idea that...
So you say physical harm is used?
Yes, in some cases. And we have protections, to David's point, we have protections in place for medical providers, for mental health care providers in all areas. A mental health care provider cannot tell a client that, oh, you're depressed and suicidal. Obviously, that is your reality and you should pursue suicide. That is not an appropriate thing to do. So we protect our patients from said practices. That's what Governor Beshear was attempting to do for minors in this executive order.
Mr. Smothers, how do you look at conversion therapy, and is it torture? And do you agree with the use of physical harm in order to convince someone or persuade them to be heteronormative?
I'd like to take a step back for a minute. As a Christian pastor and a Christian theologian, I believe the Bible teaches that God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. That's Genesis 1:27. Affirmed and quoted by Jesus in Matthew 19.
And not an answer to the question.
I'm getting there. And so, you know, when we hear about conversion therapy, I think it's an ironic use of the word conversion because there's been a prior conversion to begin with, and that's the conversion from a young male or a young female to identifying with the opposite sex and then undergoing either treatments or hormone therapies and these kind of things. And my conviction is, along with the founding of this country, Thomas Jefferson, the Declaration of Independence, that we have the law of nature and the law of nature's God. And that is that sex is not assigned at birth. Sex is determined at conception. You can sex an embryo and it can be determined male or female from the very beginning of conception. In other words, it's God who assigns male and female, and who are we to act otherwise? It's God who made us, not we ourselves. In other words, what Andy Beshear is doing with his executive order, this executive order, if it were to stand, this veto on HB 495, is actually prevent Christian clinicians, Christian counselors from addressing the first conversion that happened, which is the conversion away from their sex determination at conception.
Prevent them from engaging in medical malpractice.
Respectfully, Pastor, though, Galatians chapter 3, verse 28 also teaches us that there is no male nor female, for we're all one in Jesus Christ. But this is not a show where we're here to debate theology. This is a show where we're here to debate public policy. And the United States protects your freedom of religion to believe that. But it does not protect your right to force that narrow definition into law.
The phrase medically necessary, there was a lot of debate on the House and Senate floor about that. Some believe that this is an elective procedure and not medically necessary. Ms. Curtis, tell us why it's one and not the other.
Well, first off, I want to clarify something, which is that Kentucky's Medicaid has never covered gender-affirming surgeries for transgender people. It has only covered gender-affirming hormone replacement therapy, which is the clinically accepted course of treatment for gender dysphoria, as accepted by every major medical organization in the world for decades. I know that this is life-saving care because I'm a trans Kentuckian who received hormone replacement therapy that was covered at the time by Medicaid. This is not a hypothetical that we're talking about. This is something where my doctor recognized that I was experiencing daily suicidal ideation. I sought counseling. I sought, believe it or not, counseling through the church as well. And we determined that this was the appropriate course of action. My doctor assessed me, said this is medically necessary, and prescribed me hormone replacement therapy. Prior to that medication, I was experiencing suicidal ideation on a daily basis. And since I began that course of medication, I don't experience it at all anymore. This isn't a question about is Medicaid covering cosmetic surgeries for people to make themselves more beautiful or conventionally attractive. This is a question about whether we are going to provide the accepted treatment that has been endorsed by every major medical association in the world for decades for people like me.
Mr. Walls.
As was mentioned, President Trump has signed multiple executive orders, including an important one to protect our tax dollars. I believe Kentuckians were shocked when they found out that Governor Beshear was seeking to use our tax dollars to pay for transgender interventions in our prisons.
They not only weren't shocked, they didn't care.
And they also were shocked to find out that our tax dollars are being used in Medicaid, and the numbers that we're hearing could be up to 10,000.
Respectfully, David, I began receiving Medicaid coverage under Governor Bevin.
Okay.
I think Beshear's opposition to both of these bills demonstrates that he's trying to put his hand on the scales and vote in favor of a troubled mind instead of a healthy body. And I don't think that the taxpayers in Kentucky want to sign up for that. I don't think that they want to be on the hook for providing those kinds of surgeries, those kinds of treatments, those kind of hormonal therapies that are going to result in sterilization, that are going to result in many aspects. You look at some of these women that have undergone these hormone replacement surgeries. We're talking about early onset osteoporosis, all kinds of, just look at the studies. There's a reason why the Tavistock Clinic is backing off of their affirming care. There's a reason why Johns Hopkins stopped their treatment and then restarted it. There's a reason why Washington University in St. Louis has stopped providing this kind of care. And it actually has to do a lot with the legal challenges that they know are coming because of the very cases that David cited with these detransitioners.
But you said Johns Hopkins stopped it and then restarted it.
And then they restarted under the Biden administration for ideological purposes against I think the study and the well wishes of Paul McHugh, medical doctor Paul McHugh, and his research. Go look that up, like I said, for listeners. All the literature is available. All of these studies are out there. I think that right now we're in a debate, and I think this is a debate that we need to have. Why then would the governor, why then would the taxpayer be on the hook for one side of the debate instead of having this out in the open? And let's talk about the laws of nature and nature's God.
Okay, respectfully, Pastor, though, you cite all of these countries that you say are going back and these clinics that are going back, and you're not citing the fact that we just had new guidelines issued in Sweden. By the way, the Swiss study that was cited again in Senate Bill 150 when we were debating this issue 2 years ago. This isn't a new debate, though you might be new to it. Welcome. We saw that Sweden actually increased their support for gender affirming care. We saw that in several other European countries as well, because they became more aware. They studied, they did the work, they did the science. Laws like House Bill 495 that strip marginalized Kentuckians of their health care, specifically transgender Kentuckians, my community, happen because most Kentuckians don't know a transgender person individually, one-on-one, and therefore they don't know what gender-affirming care looks like. And that absence of direct knowledge allows bad faith actors to use this horror film language like sterilization or mutilation, quote unquote, to fearmonger. Okay. And the truth is much more mundane. It doesn't look like what they're describing. It looks like this. This is estrogen that was provided to me through a prescription by my doctor.
Thank you, Ms. Curtis. We'll have to leave it there. We appreciate you.